Hey guys, back with some more Bazaar. I know it's been a minute since I've uploaded, hoping to be less busy soon. But yeah, big hotfix, big patch has come out. So we had patch 6.0 on the 10th yesterday, and then we also had a hotfix as well. So I thought I'd cover both, and I guess first we will go through the hotfix. I didn't get to play in between these two, so I assume these are things that they might have changed that were kind of busted, I guess. But yeah, we'll see. So Ballista, so changed to 50 damage was 40, changed to when you haste, this gains 25 and 50. It was 2040. Okay, so it was already intended and was missed in the original update. Sure, that makes sense. It was just a little bit underpowered and they wanted to fix that up. Launch tower basically didn't make vehicles fly. Interesting. Beta ray cooldown went back up to 7 seconds. It was 6. That makes sense to me as well. Double whammy. The tooltip was showing the wrong numbers. Covetous Thief had a grindstone, but now it has honing steel and a grenade instead. The new grindstone was a bit too much on non-pig heroes early into the run, and it was too consistent to get. I'm guessing there was some kind of grindstone improvement that we'll see later. Prince Marianus, so now no longer has a slow and steady skill. Apparently, he was a bit too hard with the buff to eels, which I guess we will see as well. It did get nerfed in the last season because the season before it was a little bit busted. But yeah, okay. Heat shield temporarily turned off due to a bug. Didn't get to experience that. Lava roller cooldown back to 10.8 was 9.7. Burn to 2040 was 30.50. This is being done because the fix to the order of its effect resolution already buffed it quite a bit. I didn't really get to see this, but I'm guessing they just essentially made it a bit too strong. So in layman's terms, but yeah, let me know because I didn't really get to see any of this. 28-hour fitness fixes shields that enchant to be when you use a shield item so that it doesn't go infinite with itself. Wow, okay. That's a little bit silly. I would have liked to have seen that. So I'm guessing the shield that enchant was when you shield, your weapons gain X amount of damage. That is funny. Okay, let's see. So Sky Spirit Ashes fixed a bug with enchants. We're working on non-enchanted item use. Sure. Makeshift Plate fixed an issue where Makeshift Plate was giving higher shield than intended. Okay, yeah, sure. Didn't really get to see this, but yeah, sure. Okay, so now we've moved on for the hotfix and we will go into the patch. Just a reminder to like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. It helps out the channel a lot. I do want to keep making videos, even though we have had a little bit of a drought in the past 2 weeks. Life has gotten busy, but I would like to start making videos again. So, lots of different changes. So, their goals, which I really like the way that they're communicating this. They released their intentions a while before releasing this patch, so they were actually talking about what they wanted to do, what they were trying to achieve, which I really like. So they want to reduce the power level of Stelle. So things like Private Runabout and Hangar were really, really strong. And they want to reduce the power level of out-of-combat scaling items. Money Tree was extremely strong last season as well, last month. And they want to make the strongest enchants with the biggest immediate impact rarer. So Obsidian and Shielded. So yeah, they're often a culprit in making otherwise safe items into a problem. Yes, that makes sense as well. And improving the numbers on existing items that are not seeing much play. Yep, give me Induction Aegis meta, please. Okay, general changes. So, matchmaking changes. So, I love what I'm seeing here. I had a look at this briefly earlier. So, basically, they're changing the way that players are matched with opponents' ghosts in ranked and normal modes in order to create a smoother onboarding experience for new players. So, you'll only get matched with ghosts of players of your rank or lower for PvP fights. Essentially just creating a better experience for new players because you get to play against people in theory of your own level, right? And find the rank that you naturally level up to. And it also, I guess, for better players makes the it essentially doesn't change, right? As you can still play against ghosts of any rank. Now, players will now gain and lose rank points, which used to be a thing, but they've basically made this spreadsheet here, which outlines the differences. So we have things at different ranks, and obviously in Legend, it's an MMR change rather than a point change. You have like 5 points per rank. And I like the look of this. So basically, getting 10 wins early on helps you level up a lot quicker, even at Diamond. So 10 wins is extremely valuable now to help you get to Legend really quickly. I wouldn't be surprised in seeing this. There's 4 ranks. Like, that's not a lot of games to get to Legend now, if you are just getting 10 wins. And people are good enough at the game to get that. So I think people will be getting that really quickly. And I do like this. Yeah, it felt like there wasn't a lot of punishment in at least outside of Legend for losing. So I like this. The fact that one game is a little bit of a setback. It's not like at Diamond, Gold, it's probably more of a setback because you have to work a little bit harder to get that back. But I think that this is a positive change. I guess it does create a slightly higher skill ceiling, but with the matchmaking changes, I think it kind of levels it out. So, enchantment. So, they're trying to balance, clean it up a little bit. Golden is now on most items, which is cool to see, and an adjustment of the deadly enchant, which is interesting to see as well. I'm assuming that, when we see inherent crit abilities on certain items, it's not just this item gains 50% crit chance, because crit does feel a little bit underwhelming on a lot of items, because instead of, getting obsidian on a weapon or getting heal on a heal item or shield on a shield item, you're essentially only giving yourself a 50% chance to, double it. Obsidian enchant is rarer, which is good as well. They did talk about wanting to reduce shielded as well, but they haven't mentioned that here. Silver tier or lower merchants no longer sell enchanted items. This makes sense as well. There's no real RNG aspect, I guess. They're kind of getting rid of that. You can't just find an amazing enchant early on in a shop and build around it. You have to work a little bit harder for it, I guess. Pricing changes. So enchantments no longer double an item's value. Legendary. The buy price is a little bit cheaper, although you're never really buying a legendary item. And then it sells for less as well. And basically, when you go to the Temple Expedition and you sell something to get an enchant, you're not getting any money for it, basically. Which is probably a good thing, because getting 50 gold and having, almost infinite money for the rest of your run and getting an enchant seems a little bit ridiculous. Obstacle course event no longer spawns for Stelle. I struggle to remember what this was. Obstacle course is getting a slow item, which I guess Stelle has quite a limited pool of that, so I think it can spawn some good items maybe. Prospero is now gold tier and spawns day 5+. Yep. Regenerative tincture, the scaling is changed, so now it gives regen equal to twice your level, I guess, like some of the other events that scale relative to your level. I think that makes sense to me. Die Mosquito, health is now 1,500. It was 1,700. Die Mosquito was scary. So yeah, I think this is good. Now, regen skills no longer boost the output of items to give you permanent regen outside of combat, e.g. Tome of Yin, Sifting Pan, Lunchbox. Yep, that makes sense as well. Free loot items, get scrap, get extracts, etc. should no longer appear on heroes that don't generally use that output. Yeah, cool. Fixed Hattie Wheels infinite spin bug. That was a kind of funny bug that people found, created some memes. Players can now access settings from collection plus chest opening scenes. Cool. Yep, just convenience. Sped up time between experience shard hitting player portrait and game continuing. Okay, yeah, just trying to make it a little bit more seamless, I guess. Chest opening should no longer display most recent season chest asset when opening previous seasons. Okay, cool. So I guess that was an issue. I hadn't really encountered that myself. And there's a new loading screen. Cool. I haven't seen this. I haven't had an opportunity to play yet. I will experience these things and give some more of my thoughts. So now we get into the actual character specific changes. So Mac Apothecary, so cooldown to 5 from 6. Sure, I didn't really play a lot of Mac, so a lot of these balances will be lost on me. But what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of positive changes so far, so I'm relatively optimistic. Atmospheric Sample was quite strong last season, so it's only charging items that were not the original trigger. This is a good thing. You could create some really like wacky infinite loops with this that would go really crazy. Black Rose cooldown to 7 was 8. Makes sense. Regen scaling to 2, 3, 4 was 1, 2, 3. Yep, I like that. It's just underpowered. Basically, no one ever uses it. Boiling Flask cooldown got increased. This is good. Boiling Flask, it was pretty good. Like, we saw some really crazy builds with things like invulnerability potions. You know, when that gets hasted and its cooldown gets low enough, you can just... It is possible to just be invincible for the whole, like, PvP. So this is a positive change in my eyes. Cauldron, Poison and Burn changed to 2, 3, 4 per type was 1, 2, 3. That's good. No one really uses that item, so I guess, you know, upping the scaling a little bit might help. I'm not sure. Covetous Raven, damage changed to 81, 120, 160. Yeah, an underutilized item. So, you know, they talked about this in the design. They're trying to, you know, I guess scale it up and make it usable. Deathcap's Poison scaling to 369 was 246. Yep, again, underutilized item. Emerald, poison to 2, 3, 4, 5. Poison buff to 2, 3, 4, 5. I like this. It's more of an active item now instead of just a passive poison buff. This makes sense to me. Oil Lantern cooldown to 8 was 10, 9, 8. And burn to 10, 20, 30 was 10. Yeah, cool. I like this. We're scaling the burn now instead of the cooldown. So this is going to be a much stronger item. You could do some wacky stuff with this when you get enough, you know, instances of regen, but it is quite hard to pull off. Ruby, cooldown to 7 was 10, burn to 2, 3, 4, 5 was 3, 6, 9, 12, burn buff to 2, 3, 4, 5. So the cooldown got lowered significantly, 10 to 7. The burn got decreased, and the burn buff got decreased. Kind of interesting change, I guess. It's more active, I guess, but its burn is less and its buff is less. Kind of would have to try it out to see, like, I guess as an active item it makes sense that it has a lower cooldown, but the buff being reduced feels like it hurts a lot because that's what everyone used it for. Runic Double Bow. Alright, cooldown to 6 was 7. Yep. Cooldown to, damage to 20, 40, 60 was 25, 35, 45. Yep, makes sense as well. Underutilized item. It does have double crit damage, so I'm interested to see where this goes. Whether that's strong now, I'm not sure. It does have multicast, I think. Secret Formula cooldown to 9-7 was 10-8. Sure. Sifting Pan, regen skills no longer increase this item's permanent gains. And yeah, we saw these before. Like, your regen skills can't scale these anymore. Viper Cane Poison and regen scaling to 20-30 was 15-25. Incremental change, maybe we see some more use of it. Weaselpede, duration to 1 second was 1-2-3. Cooldown to 6-5-4 was 6. Yeah, I like this. Multicast for, you know, 2x1 instead of 2x, you know, 3 at diamond, but at a higher cooldown. You get more freeze instances, but less freeze, I guess. Which is good for triggers, but obviously it punishes your enemy less. Dooley. Okay, my favorite character. Please save Dooley. Okay, Alpha Ray. We saw this got changed in the hotfix, so this is back up to 7. No, Beta Ray, sorry. Alpha Ray would still be at 6. So, some of the Rays have their cooldowns decreased. Ray, cooldown to 6 was 7. Yep, great change. Arc Blaster damage to 15, 30, 45, 60 was 20, 40, 60, 80. Sure, slightly less damage. The cooldown is a bit lower as well, though, so I think this is a good change. Barbed Wire slows 2 items for 1 second, so we get more slow triggers, which is good, instead of slowing 1 item for more. Battery ammo to 5 was 4. Yeah, sure. It's kind of hard to use all the ammo on a battery anyway. I guess this is a good change. Like, it's like a 4 or 5 second cooldown item. So it's, you know, 20 seconds into a fight, 25 now, maybe, to use all of its ammo. Sure. Beta Ray, cooldown to 6 was 7. Great. Bulldozer changed to when you use another friend. This gains 35-70 instead of 30-60. And your other friend's cooldowns reduced by 15-25 was 10-20. This item was not amazing. Like, it got buffed in both categories, damage and cooldown reduction, so we'll have to see how this operates, I guess. Feels like it could be strong now. Who knows? 25% is a lot. You know, like it is only 5% more than 20, but it also just has, you know, much more damage scaling. Like 70 versus 60, and also having 5% more feels like a lot. We'll see though. Chem Snail, cooldown to 8 was 6. Changed to when you slow charge this 2 seconds. Interesting. Does it still have its inherent slow? I don't think I saw this change last season. Okay, interesting. So I'm guessing it just poisons now. It doesn't slow itself. And now it charges on slow procs. That's cool. I like that. And it obviously got a lot quicker. I mean, as a medium item, it did feel a little bit underwhelming, even though it had slow and poison procs before. So I think this is a good change. You know, 2 seconds of charge versus 1 feels good. I didn't see people playing it. So Chris Army Knife, damage and shield to 20 was 15. Good to see. Cog, haste duration to 2, 3, 4 seconds was 1, 2, 3. Cool LEDs, cooldown to 5 was 6. Copper Ed, poison to 5 was 3. Shield to 25 was 15. Great. Copper Ed is a little bit of a meme. So this is good. Crane, damage to 150, 300 was 100, 200. So the scaling is quicker. This will be interesting because, you know, there are some ways that you can hit the damage cap really quick. So we'll see how that goes. 50, 75 damage for each other weapon and tech item you have was 75, 125. Change to this deals triple damage if this is your only friend. Okay, so, you know, triple 75 is much more than... Not much more, actually. I lie. Well, I guess it is more impactful now when you have damage skills, I guess, which is maybe the intention here. Yeah, I mean, triple 75 is quite literally less than double 125. So, forgive me. Okay, defense matrix, cooldown to 5 was 4. Yep. Haste duration to 1, 2, 3 seconds was 1. Yep, cool. Defense matrix, don't really see it getting a ton of use. So I think this is a positive change. Yeah. Dinosaur no longer a property. Yeah, sure. I don't think that made sense anyway. Flamethrower damage to 1020 was 2. So it has some inherent damage, and given the cooldown increase, I think this is a great change. That makes sense to me. Forklift damage to 150, 250 was 150, 200. Yep, that's great as well. It does fall off a little bit, even when you have all of the tags needed to gain the max amount of damage. Gamma Ray, cooldown to 6 was 7. A lot of the rays are getting their cooldowns reduced. This is nice. Might see some more ray builds. Hamlet, cooldown to 6 was 10. Change to when you slow charges 1 second. So it has a lower cooldown. So I guess it doesn't rely on slow as much now. Like it has, you know, its inherent cooldown is a little bit lower. But obviously, you know, it takes 1 more charge proc to activate, in theory. 1 more slow proc to, you know, get to the same state as, you know, 5 procs for this, 6 procs for 6 by, you know, 1 by 6. Hovertech, flying targets to 234 was 123. Yep, cool. Ice 9000, poison scale to 1530 was 1020. Interesting. I've heard that Ice 9000 was maybe like not horrible. I don't think poison is going to be necessarily amazing anytime soon, but we'll see. I think max poison scaling is really the only thing that is necessarily a threat, and then, you know, some really good Vanessa elemental depth charge builds. Induction Aegis, burn to 5 was 2. Huge buff, man. It's still not amazing, even with more than double the burn, I think. We'll see, but I still don't think that's stellar. Okay. Isocoric Freezer cooldown to 654 was 6. Cool. You know, 4 seconds of diamond is nice. And it's just a flat 2 seconds instead of 1, 2, 3. It's probably an overall buff. Laser Pistol damage to 15, 30, 45, 60 was 10, 20, 30, 40. Bit of a damage buff. Cool. Laser Pistol, you know, it's just a bad small tech item. Doesn't really get used all that much. You know, it's kind of just there until something better takes its place. Micro Dave cooldown to 7654 was 8, and burn to 5 was 6, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, cool. Like, you know, that's a really fast item now, I guess, at 4 seconds. It's only 4 small item procs to charge it, because I believe it's a 1 second charge. So that can be a really quick item now. Miss Isles changed to when you use a core. This gains 10, 20, 30 damage for the fight and reload it. Yeah. That seems really good. Like Miss Isles was already a relatively solid option. You know, it was essentially as fast as an Uzi. You know, I think it's a 4-second item with multicast. It is a medium. But it is, you know, a good item. So, you know, it gaining scaling as well is interesting to see. This would be cool if Miss Isles is strong, like very strong. $1 at poison scaling to 5, 10, 15 was 369. Yep, needed it. Omega Ray cooldown to 6 was 7. Yep, cool. More Ray cooldowns, which is nice. Pierre Conditioner, freeze targets to 2, 3 was 1, 2. This is good. Excuse me. Drink break. I haven't seen a lot of Pierre Conditioner use ever, really. I remember a time when he was okay, but never a time I think where he was strong. Yeah, Plasma Rifle needed that cooldown decrease. That's good. Ever since I don't know if it was a nerf or a buff, but I know that they increased the damage scaling, but it basically just didn't get charged anymore. So we'll see. 6 seconds versus 7 is obviously a lot better if it has the same damage scaling. Power Center changed to haste item to the right for 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds was 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. You know, the slow does feel a little bit punishing, so I like the fact that they've increased the haste scaling. Propeller Hat, fix an issue where the item could only make one core fly at a time. Yep. That makes sense. Like, you know, it's just a bug fix, so. Pylon, changed to slow 1, 2, 3 items for 1 second. Changed to when you slow haste an item for 1 second. So it doesn't scale the amount anymore. We just get more procs, which is good. This, you know, it feels like it's great for drill, right? You know, I don't know how much drill we'll be seeing, but, you know, Pylon feels good. Pyrocarbon, haste duration changed to 1.5, 2 seconds. Was 1 at all tiers. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Like, Pyrocarbon is really good in particular circumstances. Like, you know, if the enemy's burning you, then it's amazing, right? And if you're burning yourself, then it's also amazing. But, you know, you have to hit those requirements. You know, you have to self-burn. Railgun, damage to 250, 500 was 200, 400, and the quest requires 8 tech was 10. I haven't really used it since it became a quest item. So can't really speak on this in terms of viability. Be more than willing to try it again. Obviously, Railgun had its meta. It had 2 back when it had multicast, and, you know, more recently with things like crit core and tech. Okay, rec spec scaling to 80, 160 was 60, 120. Don't know if this was necessary. I'm good. I'm glad to see we haven't seen any other changes to dinosaurs. They feel like they're in a solid spot. It is a very late game build. You know, it does kind of suck in the early game until you get, like, you know, Mamasaur and some other ways, and you get the whole dinosaur, you know, entourage, and you can switch it around and scale in your PvE fights and use your optimal setup in your PvP. But this is a good change, I think. Rocket launcher burn to 2, 4, 6, 8 was 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Satcom haste duration to 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds was bugged at 2, 2, 2, 5. Interesting. Temporal navigator fixed an issue with the obsidian variant triggering on crit instead of use. Cool. Yep. The core cooldown to 654 was 765. Okay, interesting. Just the core. That's cool to see. Thermal lance burn to 6 was 5. Burn scaling to 6, 12, 18 was 5, 10, 15. The burn scaling on this was already pretty good. So I'd be interested to see this and how that works now. Pulse rifle gains the tech type back. It did get removed from it for a little bit. Cooldown to 5 was 6, 5, 4, 3. Damage to 10, 20, 30, 40. So basically just got reverted to what it was. They tried experimenting with it and, you know, doing the cooldown instead of the damage scaling. But I guess it didn't really work out. It made some quick tech builds. Unstable grav well. Cooldown to 765 was 876. Welding torch cooldown to 876 was 987. Yep, cooldown, you know, decreases, which is good. Z shield. Shield to 75, fuse duration to 1 second, cooldown to 765. Okay, so we get an actual cooldown decrease, and, you know, it's a similar sort of deal with the Z sword. I like this. This is good. I think with multicast, it makes sense to give it faster procs. Make the item itself more impactful instead of just using it for, you know, the cooldown reduction, I guess. The item itself has a bit more of an impact. Pygmalion, you know, we know Money Tree got nerfed, so, you know, it'll be coming up later. Atlas Stone. Corrected an issue where Obsidian Atlas Stone tripled its damage output on use. Cool. Balcony starts at gold. Needed. It's way too accessible, so this is a great change. Brass Knuckles cooldown to 9876 was 8. Cool damage to 8 was 816 2432. Yeah, this is cool. You know, a 6-second double damage weapon that's small seems like it could be pretty good in certain circumstances. Cargo Shorts fix an issue with discounted items in the stash for multicast instead of its own tags. Fixed an issue with discounted items in the stash for multicast instead of its own tags. Okay, so it was like overriding its own tags with others? I'm not really sure. That's kind of hard to interpret, at least for me. If you see this and can explain it to me. Cash Cannon starts at 50 damage was 1. Cold Room starts at silver. Yep. Cooldown to 6 was 9. Change to freeze 1, 2, 3 items for 1 second was 1, 2. When you use an adjacent tool or property, charges 1 second. Interesting. There are some fast tools, I think, and some relatively fast properties, so we'll see how this goes. I like this rework though. Change to when you freeze gain 248 regen for the fight was 510. Interesting rework. I'm, you know, interested to see how this goes. Dog got nerfed. Its cooldown got increased. This was needed. It was quite strong, to be honest with you. And the quest got increased as well, which sure. You know, you did see some people, I guess, relatively early with this quest done. But we'll see. It's just going to be people buying gumballs. So, you know, it is still, you know, you see the gumballs, you click on it. Fixer Upper, cooldown to 4 was 5. Cool. Yeah, Fixer Upper at 4 seconds. I don't ever remember that being an issue, ever. Grindstone to 3 was 4. Added, if the weapon to the left has a cooldown of over 5 seconds, this has +1 multicast. So now we can see why that hotfix was needed. Because a lot of weapons have, you know, over 5 seconds cooldown. So that makes sense. Hotstones, cooldown to 4 was 6. Burn 2, 4, 6, 8. Regen to 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, cool. Lower cooldown. It'll proc something like a matchbox more, synergizes a little bit better, but it itself, you know, less burn, less regen, sure. Investment pitch event, appreciated value change to give your items +10 value instead of doubling the value of your leftmost item. This is a huge change. Like it is, not even possibly, it definitely is the biggest power spike in the game if you are value scaling. Like, if I could think about anything, any build in the game, and I wanted to increase its effectiveness by the most amount, it would literally be this. It would be investment pitch with a value scaling build. So this is a massive change. Rebellion Drum, haste duration change to 2 seconds was 1-2. Damage change to 510 was 6-9. Yeah, cool. You know, it's a slight increase at diamond, decrease at gold. Makes sense. Keychain corrected enchantments to only target active items. Interesting. Landscraper, cooldown to 5 was 7. Yep. Luxury tents. First time you would die each fight, heal to 10 to 20 was 2550. Makes sense. We saw a lot of it with Money Tree, and it was pretty good because you just heal a ton with Money Tree, right? So this gives a chance for people to kill them a little bit quicker even when they heal after they die. Alright, model ship starts at silver, cooldown to 543, shield to 10. Yep, makes sense. Money Tree, cooldown to 5 was 4. War is over. It needed a nerf. It got it. Pickles Launcher, cooldown to 7 was 8. Yep, cool, makes sense. Regal Blade, quest requirements at 12, 10, 8 items bought was 12, 12, 12. Yeah, cool. That makes sense to me as well. Third quest now scales damage based on all items value, was just properties. Interesting. I haven't worked with Pig a lot recently. But, you know, I guess if you're doing some crazy value scaling, then it's not just your properties anymore, and you get it from everything. So I can see this working a lot better when you're value scaling something like a QS or something along those lines. Slingshot starts at 2 ammo was 1, sure. Spiky Shields, shield to 10 was 10, 15, 20, 25. Cooldown to 9876. Interesting. So this is going to synergize a little bit better with the new Silk, I guess, because it has a lower cooldown. And upgrades actually mean something instead of just giving you a little bit more shield. Textiles changed to when you heal with an item, charge an adjacent non-healing item 1 second was charge adjacent items. Good. You could create some wacky infinites with this. Truffles lowered enchant numbers. Didn't really know what they were. Sure. Tusked Helm cooldown to 9876 was 10. Damage and shield to 10 was 10, 15, 20, 25. Yeah, I like this. It's a, feels like it would synergize a little bit better with something like a 28-hour fitness now. We have a quick multicast, 6-second shield and damage item, right? Which I think this is a good overall change. Vineyard cooldown to 5 was 6, sure. VIP pass cooldown changed to 5 seconds was 7. Haste Regen changed to 2 seconds. And value increase changed to 4, 6, 8, and only for the current fight. Ooh, big changes. Okay, so now you don't actually get you don't really get long-term benefits. So I think this is good. This is a great change in my eyes because, there was a lot of problem with value scaling pig recently. So we'll see. Obviously, this hurts pig players for value because VIP pass is a massive way of scaling that. But we'll just have to see. Now we get on to the biggest one. Stelle, probably the strongest character. Last patch, Hanger and Flying Runabout were pretty rampant. So let's have a look. Firecrackers, damage to 5 was 6. Sure. Didn't really see many people playing Firecrackers. Flare Gun corrected an issue where this does not correctly count as an ammo item in some cases. Sure. Flashbang slowed to 2, 3, 4 seconds was 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it was a lot of slow, so that makes sense. Hanger starts at diamond cooldown to 1 second was 1.5. Yep, it's the same as all the other big game-changing diamond items, which Hanger was and probably still is one. So this is good, because it still has a pretty high impact, right? Like all items that aren't a vehicle or a tool. It's not just non-weapons, it's not weapons, it's everything that doesn't have this specific tag. So it still is high impact, but now it's much, much harder to find, which I think is good. Hammer, quest goal increased to 10 was 8. Yep, way too easy to get upgrades. Headset corrected an issue with several of its items and chance also triggered on stop flying. Interesting, didn't see that happen, but sure. Hydraulic squeezer now correctly charges all of your flying items instead of just one. Didn't see this happen, didn't really get to use this item a whole lot. I, was not really doing a whole lot of stuff with it, but I didn't get to see that. But I'm glad that changed because it literally is the tooltip that it charges all your flying items, so it makes sense. Lava Roller, adjusted effective ordering so destroy happens before the burn. This also corrected an issue with a grab grenade would not buff Lava Roller, cooldown to 9-7. So obviously they reverted this to 10-8, but I think this got kept, right? We'll go back and have a look, but yeah, this is cool. Launch tower changed to the first time you use an item each fight or your vehicle start flying was at the start of each fight. Yep, this is an amazing change. Like we still have fast vehicles, right? So this is still a high impact item. And it's still going to work well with Private Runabout. But Private Runabout did also get nerfed. So this is still a good change. It just gives your opponents an extra 2 seconds, basically at really high levels. Lightning Rod corrected an issue with the enemy and player triggers on different internal cooldowns. Cool. Lunchbox regen skills no longer increases items' permanent gains. Yup. Orbital Polisher needs 150 items to fly. Was 99. Yeah, needed. Shiny was, when you're playing a flying build, it was still too easy to get. Oxygen Mask regen to 3, 6, 9, 12. Yep, didn't really get used. Oxygen tank to 75, 100, 125 healing per vehicle. Yeah, cool. Didn't really see this getting used either. And Private Runabout, one of the stronger items, cooldown to 987 from 7, damage to 100 from 50, 100, 150. So, it just has 50 damage less at Diamond, I guess, so it's still going to be a good item at Diamond, but you're going to have a lot of flying items in order to reduce this thing to 1 second. This is a great change. It was extremely strong, especially with something like Launch Tower. So that's a very, very positive change. All right. So Rivet Gun cooldown to 876 was 6. Self-charge to 2 was 123. Yeah, Rivet Gun was pretty good, so this makes sense. Sandbags, 2, 3, 4 vehicles start flying from 1. When a vehicle starts flying, charge at 1 second from 1 to 3 seconds. It just increases the amount of vehicles that start flying, so it feels more synergistic with vehicles rather than just like a singular vehicle. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you just start up quicker, which is cool. Siren cooldown to 576 was 7. 567 was 7. Uh, yeah. I mean, they ordered it wrong, I think, right? But yeah, like 765, right? 7 at bronze. Slow haste duration increased to 1 second was 0.5. Cool. Yeah. Solo drone, no longer a vehicle. Cooldown to 7 was 8. Yeah, cool. Makes sense. Squirrel suit, regen to 10, 15, 20 was 6, 8, 10. Yeah, didn't really see anyone using this thing. The big one damage to 40, 50% instead of 35, 45. Yeah, that seems pretty great. I mean, these things get really dangerous when we put the numbers at 50%, because, when you double that, that's all of their max health, right? We saw that with Keg, and I've seen some strong builds even with the big one at 35, 45. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Wrecking Ball cooldown to 20 was 22, sure. All right, now we get to Vanessa and then some general changes afterwards. So, Anchor, haste duration changed to 2 was 2-4. Cooldown to 12-10 was 13. Blowgun cooldown to 8-6 was 9. Butterfly Swords cooldown to 7 was 8. Yeah, this is a cool change, and so is the Blowgun. Honestly, all of these are really cool, right? Because Anchor has kind of been not an amazing item for a while, and I think the cooldown reduction does matter. And the haste duration, I think you're using adjacent items often enough in theory if you're focusing around this to not really be worried about the haste duration. And I think, yeah, the cooldown does matter more. And then, yeah, Blowgun has been at 9 seconds for as long as I can remember, so, having it at 8.6 feels a lot better. Cyber cooldown to 3 was 5. You just never see this item get used, so I'm glad that they changed it. 3 seconds, 10, 20, 30, 40. So they've reduced the damage, but they've increased the invulnerability charges. I like this. It's centered more around what they were actually trying to do with the item, which was give you different invulnerability procs throughout a fight, right? It was never really about the damage that it dealt, I don't think. It was more about the invulnerability, so I like this change. Darkwater Angler cooldown to 876 was 8, sure. It's kind of overshadowed by the Oni mask, so this makes sense. Electric Eels damage to 100 was 50. That's a big buff. Okay. Flagship damage to 50 was 50, 75, 100. Cooldown to 765 was 7. That's a lot of multicast. I'm glad the damage got taken off, but that's really quick at 5. Kusarigama cooldown to 5 was 6, no longer slows. This is great. That's a good change. And the scaling damage has gone up. So back up to what I believe it was before. So that's a good change to me. Manta Shrimp cooldown to 9 was 10. Yep. Mr. Richardson cooldown to 6 was 7. Old Soulclaw cooldown to 6 was 7. Just lots of cooldown reduction changes, it seems. Orange Julian 11, 10, 9 starts at silver. That's great. You don't just get to start it at the start of your run. You have to actually find it at silver or medium instead. It is faster at diamond, which does scare me a little bit. But people didn't really care about upgrading it, so I guess this is more significant now. Pufferfish cooldown to 876 was 8. Buff. Big buff, probably. We'll see if poison is an issue. Sea Dog Saloon cooldown to 5.4 was 6.5. That's nice and quick now. Stealth Glider re-enabled. Corrected an issue where Enchanted Stealth Glider's invulnerability did not break properly. This was out of the game. I guess I'm out of the loop. I didn't even realize that. I just didn't see people playing it. This will be interesting to see with Orange Julian, I guess, getting a buff in terms of its cooldown. So we'll see, because a lot of Vanessa players, at least in the later part of last season, they were just playing Orange Julian with some shurikens, with a katana, with the hoverboard, and they were just stacking damage after 6-7 seconds basically. So this will be interesting to see some of these items in combination. Submarine damage to 50 was 50, 75, 100. Cooldown to 432. Wow, that is quick. Torpedo, max damage to 1 was 2. Damage scaling to 40, 80, 120 was 40, 70, 100. Okay, so Torpedo's scaling was already kind of crazy. So this is going to be a one-shot item. Similar to Arbalist, I guess. Zoacid, cooldown to 6 was 7, haste duration to 2 seconds, damage to 15, 30, 45, 60. So increase in damage, decrease in haste duration overall, I guess. But the cooldown is obviously lesser as well, so we're going to be getting more haste procs. Alright, common items, skills. Let's have a look. Citrus, regen skills, don't affect these anymore. Good change. Scythe cooldown to 7 from 11. It was a really underwhelming legendary weapon. So we'll see how scary he is now, I guess. Hands of Time now probably no longer targets tools with no cooldown for a cooldown or a cooldown of 1 with its active effect. I didn't really get a chance to use it. Seemed like an interesting item. I guess I'm more interested now. I haven't really seen an amazing run with it. Kind of feels like it's overlooked. Skills. Advanced Synthetics, now dually only. Yeah, cool. Like it's a techie item, so I think that makes sense. Starts at silver tier. Alchemical Precision removed unnecessary ammo check, which prevented it from working on items that gained the ammo tag. Cool. Bombs away. New skill. Stealth only when we use a vehicle or a drone burn. Cool. Okay, so we get some more burn synergy. That's cool. Hot Air. New skill. Stealth only. The first time we burn, 1/2 of your items start flying. If you get Valley Fever, I don't remember what the valley is, but it's like high Valley Fever or something. You get instant flight, which is cool to see. Equivalent Exchange corrected an issue where the triggers were not on the same internal cooldown. Expert Pilot starts at bronze tier. Your vehicles have plus 20, 30, 40, 50 damage and shield from 30, 60. Yeah, cool. This is a good change. I think it allows for some early, scaling rather than just getting it in the late game and getting a massive power spike. Focus Strike, renamed from Temporal Strike, now Vanessa only. If you have exactly one weapon, its cooldown is reduced by 5, 10, 15. From cooldown reduced while your enemy has a slow item. Cool. It's just a rework of a skill. I like it. It seems synergistic with Vanessa. Heavy Machinery corrected an issue where this was not counting uses correctly. Cool. Heat Shield attempted to fix to correct an occasional issue where this would not trigger. Okay, never really got to see it, but sure. Noisy Cricket, if we have at least 7 items in play, your weapons deal plus 20, 30, 40 from 20, 25, 30. Yeah, I like this. It seemed kind of underwhelming for the item requirement when we compare it to other damage skills. Searing Flames, one of your burn items gains haste. It gains 1, 2, 3 burn for the fight, was conditional on already having haste, so it's just gaining haste now. That's cool. Steel Storm, your weapons have plus 4, 6, 8 damage for each weapon you have from 4, 8, 12. This is needed. Wide weapon Vanessa seemed a little bit strong. And then finally, the last change, we have Streamline Weapon. When one of your weapons gain haste, it gains 5, 10, 15 damage for the fight. Was conditional on already having haste, which was already strong. So I'm interested in seeing this. We will see. But yeah, that's all the changes. Pretty big patch. I've been talking for 43 minutes. I feel positive. They fixed what needed to be fixed. Money tree is a little bit lower in power. Flying, private runabout, hangar, a lot, they hit the design goals, basically. And I really love these general matchmaking changes as well. Well, that's it. I've talked enough. You've listened to me enough. Like, subscribe, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the changes. Who are you going to be playing this season? I'm interested to try and play some other characters. I basically only played Stelle last season after her release. I had a lot of fun with her. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.